Hello BookTube and welcome to Weekly Reads. As we end the first week of December, I've been working on one of my end of the year reading projects, which is to read some of the bells I've had over the course of this year and see if I can make further progress if I was wrong about these books. And I'm kind of calling it Bell Redemption. And so last week I read Space Opera by Catherynne and Valente, and it was a Bell Redemption Redeem. It was, I finished the book. I do have some criticisms of it, as I mentioned in my weekly reads last week, but I thought it was really good, all things considered. I was wrong about the book once I finally got into it. So this week, the first book of the Bell Redemptions I was going after is Crooked Little Heart by Lamott. And I have to say, Bell Redemption failed. I made it slightly past the point I quit last time, and I seriously don't see myself coming back to it. So basically, Crooked Little Heart is the story of Rose Ferguson, a young 14-year-old tennis player. She's good, but she's not one of those who will make a career in the pros. She'll be like a college player, but she won't progress further than that. And in the spring and early summer of her 14th year, her life begins to fracture and fray as her mother, Elizabeth, is on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Her father, or her stepfather, I should say, is increasingly becoming lecherous. Her best friend is becoming sexual and everybody knows it. One of her family's greatest friends, practically a neighbor and her honorary grandfather, is dying. Her mother and father's best friends are kind of sort of embarking on a relationship, even as they're not really each other's types, and one of whom is desperately waiting for her ex-boyfriend to call her. And anywho, and so everything kind of frays and fractures and threatens to fall apart, and then everything comes together and everybody will eventually be happy, I'm assuming. But it's just, the language might be beautiful, and I will give Lamott credit. I mean, the writing is beautiful, but the characters are just too roll. They're just too wooden, I think. And the plot is kind of boring, really. So I don't think I'm going to come back to this again, so I don't know what I'm going to do. Eventually, I guess I'm probably going to be forced to do a purge, and this book will probably be on the purge block. Though I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with those books I purge. That'll be something I'll think about whenever I decide to finally get around to purging. Keeping in mind, of course, that every time I do, I bitterly regret a good chunk of the books I do purge. Anyway, now, I did have a second book on the Bell Redemption docket. Stokrow Saga by Paul Kruger. And I have to say, this book is most certainly redeemed. I loved it. So it just, once I got over the part where I bailed, which, I mean, I bailed relatively quickly when I read it earlier this year, but once I actually got into the book, this book just blew me away. The So what did I build in the first place? The prologue kind of bugged me, especially as it became clear that this particular character, while he is important later on in the text, that he's not really a main character. He's basically sort of the sacrificial prologue character. And that kind of bugged me. Especially since he's a queer man who is sort of sacrificed. And even though there is a major, I mean, 2 of the 4 main characters are queer women. It just, that sacrifice sort of rubbed me the wrong way. And then the world building where just sort of how close it is to real world and the sort of erasure of certain elements kind of bugged me. But once I got past that, once I got into the book, I was struck by the nuance and complexity that Kruger uses in his world building. It is just so powerfully done. And the characters, each one with their own arcs and their own progressions and regressions, it's just amazing. Particularly the character of Jimuro, the prince who's being taken back to his home. So what is the story about? I really should get to that. So it's about 4 characters. Tala, a soldier of Sambuna, is tasked with escorting the captured prince, now soon to be still Lord Jimuro, back home so he can be crowned, and then participate in peace negotiations. While Xiulan, 28th princess of the Shang Empire, is tasked by, well, takes the initiative to try to capture him and present Jimuro to her father. And on this quest, she enlists the character of Li, who is a Jiangxinese woman, as her partner to help her in her quest, as Li is the only one of the very few people who actually know what Jimuro looks like. And along the way, they encounter all sorts of trials and tribulations, which include each of these characters really being put through not only a physical wringer, but also an emotional and psychological wringer, where each character progresses and regresses and progresses, and it is so richly done. I enjoy that, and the pacing is so wonderful. Now, all that said is, I do really like this book, and it did deserve to make Steve's year-end science fiction list last year. I think it was number 3. Now, all that said, there is one major caveat, which I've been struggling to figure out how I wanted to address, because while this book is wonderful and unproblematic, I mean, I would say Paul Kruger himself is not. In June, he was accused by a number of women, former girlfriends, and acquaintances of bullying, abusive, and harassing behavior. And he was dropped by his agent, driven from social media. A lot of the reviews he's gotten had been rescinded and de-recommended and whatnot. And I'm not entirely sure about his book contract. So there is that to be aware of. And I didn't know exactly how to approach that, because on the one hand, I'm not overly comfortable I haven't quite formed my opinion on this whole cancel culture thing. On the whole, I don't necessarily really want to approach it, or, well, no. So I'm not entirely sure what I think. Although obviously since I just reviewed it and I didn't, yeah, obviously I don't necessarily like the idea, particularly art. It's sort of, I think, a betrayal of me wanting to, my sense of art or whatever. I don't know. So there is a tag. The problematic book love tag, I think it's called, that I saw on Katie Kyron's channel. And I'm definitely going to do the tag Tuesday if I should be able to. And then I will figure out my opinions on this whole thing. So I'm sorry about that really tangential sort of trying to figure out what I think about cancel culture and my own personal policy towards reading books by, in this case, a shitty toxic person. Anyway, hope I'll work on it and hopefully be able to have something coherent to talk about Tuesday on it. Hopefully. I mean, I've been going over it in my head for a few days, and I've come up with some really interesting stuff, but whether or not it actually makes it into the video is anybody's guess. Because I will try not to censor myself. Because I think that is one issue about that. But let's move on to the books I will be reading or maybe trying to read this coming week. So, first up is another Belle Redemption candidate, and that is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. So, this book is about basically a child services inspector who is tasked with investigating orphanages that specialize in children with special powers and abilities. And he eventually comes into contact or is assigned a specific house where he falls in love with the male caretaker and kind of adopts the children there. I bailed on it because the tone is rather childish and sort of silly, and it rubbed me the wrong way to such an extent that I wanted to throw the book across the room. But hopefully coming at it with fresh eyes and maybe knowing what's ahead, I won't necessarily have such a violent reaction. One can hope. Next, I'm going to read a book that I haven't read in a few years, and that's Blackfish City by Sam J. Miller. I think I read this in 2018 when it first came out and really liked it. I recently picked up his most recent book, and I'm looking forward to giving this a reread before I tackle the new book. Anyway, it's about a group of people on this artificial city, three of whom are revealed to be fathers, a child, and aunt or sister, and the brother and sister, their mother, comes to the city to look for them, and then there's another point of view character who is tangentially related to them, who sort of provides certain clues and stuff. It's been a while since I've read it, and I'm looking forward to coming back to it. And then I'm not entirely sure if Blackfish City will take up the entirety of the reading week, or the work week, reading Monday through Friday. But if I have some time left over, I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to give another Belle Redemption candidate another go, and that's Blue Angel by Francine Prose. My experience with Crooked Little Heart has kind of soured me on trying to build redeem the more literary fiction or realistic fiction. Well, I mean, I have enjoyed the Bell redemption for the science fiction, space opera, and Stokrow Saga. It so far hasn't been all that positive for literary fiction, but I don't know. Also, the fact that this book kind of did piss me off. So, I'm not entirely sure. We'll come back to it. And that's about a professor who is falsely accused of sexual harassment by a student. And you can probably see, why it sort of pissed me off. And then my other candidate would be Charming Billy by Alistair McDermott, which I've read before in 2017 and absolutely loved this book. And I've been looking forward to having another go at it since then. I first checked it out from the library, and I've wanted to have this in my collection, so hopefully I will enjoy it. And yeah, so anyway, BookTube, is there anything else? Sorry about that, my nose is itching. So if you notice, this bookcase here is filled with Christmas presents. So on Monday, so I put the tree up on Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, and wrapped up the presents Friday and Saturday, and put most of them around the tree. And then on Monday, my brother brought the 4 children of the apocalypse over, so he and my sister-in-law could rearrange the furniture at their house so they can put up their own Christmas tree. And so we had the 4 children over for a few hours, and to prevent them from trying to get out the presents nearly a month early, we brought them all into here. So this entire bookcase here is pretty much stacked with presents from me and my mom to my nieces and nephews, presents from my aunts to me and my mom and my brother and sister-in-law, and presents from me to my mom, which I just got in recently, and stuff like that. So they'll be here until probably sometime the days before Christmas, Christmas Eve, because normally my brother will bring the 4 children over Christmas Eve and we'll give the presents to them then. But I'm still waiting to see what they're wanting to do. Anywho, anything else? Okay, so I think in my last video of the 2020 library tour, I talked about where the plan for next week's is. It's the headboard, bookcase, and the literary fiction. I'm still planning on doing that. I'm also planning on doing the problematic book love tag, or probably, I think that's what it's called. And maybe trying another tag if I can find the time. So anyway, BookTube, before I start to ramble, I think I'll go ahead and sign it off for now. Thank you, have a great evening, and please stay safe. Thank you, BookTube.